just press forward here. So, firstly, I'd like to thank Simon from Forum for bringing us together tonight. He couldn't be here, but his enthusiasm and hospitality has landed us here. And thanks, a huge heartfelt thanks to all the Forum members who came out tonight to join us. We are deeply grateful to Beneville Studios, to Camille, Phoebe, Jen, and the entire team for hosting us this evening and for welcoming us so warmly. So I met Camille through Forum, and when I went onto the Beneville Studios website, all I could see was, we are an idea manifestation machine, and I have never seen that in my life outside of Willy Wonka. And if you haven't met Camille and her team, please do, because I think they are Willy Wonka. If you have an idea, they can manifest it. So it's not an exaggeration. So thank you, Camille, and thank you to your team. So tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with Nathalie Latham about her extraordinary visual memoir, I Am Alive. And after our brief conversation, we'll open the floor to questions. And Nathalie is here to sign books, and we even have some drawings for you to take a look at, and the oil pastels that Nathalie used. So, and uses, yeah. So Nathalie is many things. First of all, Nathalie is a force of nature, and that's really all you need to know. But there's more. She's an artist, a storyteller, a filmmaker, a photographer, a humanitarian, an environmentalist, and she's a dear friend to many of us here. So her work bridges art, healing, activism with rare depth, authenticity, and honesty. And I am in awe of this book and what she's produced, and I'm in awe of her story. So Nathalie gained early international recognition with her acclaimed exhibition, Love It and Leave It, Australia's creative diaspora at the Australian National Portrait Gallery, and her work has appeared in major publications from Le Monde to Domus to Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung and the Australian Financial Review. In 2009, Nathalie's life took a dramatic turn when she was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer at age 39, and her 7-year journey through treatment and recovery became a profound creative and spiritual awakening, one in which drawing and language evolved both as meditation and prayer and a true healing modality. I Am Alive spans 200 pages of drawings and handwritten reflections, and it is courageous. Today, Nathalie also steers Green Shakti, which is a reforestation and environmental education initiative in Tamil Nadu, India, under the guidance of her spiritual teacher, Sri Shakti Amma. And really through her tenacity and passion and a bit of divinity, the project has planted more than 2 million trees. She's inspired thousands of students through the Green Shakti programs and her environmental stewardship in Tamil Nadu. So let's welcome her tonight. It's an honor to have you. So Nathalie, I thought we would start with life before, yeah? And maybe you bring us back before your diagnosis. You were extremely cosmopolitan. Your career career was flourishing. You were all over the world. What did art and creativity mean to you? And maybe talk a little bit about some of your projects before we dig in.
Firstly, hello, good evening everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We live in a city where there's 1,000 places you could have been and you chose to be here tonight, so I'm very grateful that we can share this evening. And I'm going back to India in a few days' time, so it feels very special to have so many faces with whom I feel very fond, have very strong connections with. And so thank you very much. And also Camille, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and also to your team for making everything happen tonight. Okay, so life before.
Life before.
So I was a filmmaker and photographer and traveling the world, and I was profoundly in love with the arts and the artistic quest of humanity and what arts would come out, how people would express themselves through their art, and it was very, very. It was my life. I just loved art basically, and my quest was really to understand the human condition, which is a little ironic because having cancer and almost dying definitely is understanding what it means to be human. But before I had all that, I was traveling the world trying to understand what it was to be human. So just to give you a bit of a quick description, there's actually David Brenner, who's over here, who's the director of research at Columbia University for the radiology department. We travelled with scientists from Columbia in 2003 to the closed city of Oziorsk, which is where the atomic bomb was made in the Soviet Union. And David's team were looking at, and have done this incredible research about looking at how chromosomes get inversed when there's radiation exposure, and looking at a place where there was multiple generations of being exposed to radiation. So that was one. These are people this is the direct line to Stalin from the Museum of Plutonium. And this is Gina from the hospital and one of the scientists. Then this is a piece called "What Is Your Dream?" So I was in Beijing, and it was about interviewing young teenagers, really wanting to know what are these. China is such a big. Well, this was back in 20 years old, but it was the idea of China being a big threat. But what are these children thinking about, and what are they actually dreaming of, and what are their greatest fears? And this is a project. This is the Creative Diaspora. So it was an exhibition at the Portrait Gallery in Australia, and that's in Tribeca, just down the road. And that was of Australian artists who had left Australia and were pursuing their artistic careers around the world.
Oh, thank you. So at that time, your camera was
Always around my neck.
around your neck, and it was turned outward. Right?
Always outward, yeah. Always
Yeah,
curious.
you were constantly capturing the stories, the lives. You're an incredible portraitist, the people, the faces, and all of a sudden you have to turn that camera and that gaze inward for the first time, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely not into doing self-portraits,
Yeah. So everything really shifted. So let's talk about the diagnosis and the crisis. So when you were diagnosed at 39, how did that moment shift your sense of self? The first page in Nathalie's book, there's an incredibly moving description of when she finds out her diagnosis. And one of the lines that I loved, you say, "I am free falling through the sky. No parachute, nothing to hold on to." So can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so I'm sure other people have had terrible news. And so I don't think it's just connected to a diagnosis, but it can also be to the death of a loved one. But it's that moment of where life is completely suspended, and you know that life will never ever be the same. And that was the experience of being told that I had stage 3 cervical cancer, and they weren't sure if it was in the lymph nodes or not, and if it was, the doctors were not very hopeful at first. And it was one of those moments like, this is it, and how do I navigate this now?
And these are the last photographs.
Yeah, because after this series of photographs, so this is when I started going to hospital and doing tests. I was doing acupuncture to prepare myself for the radiation, and it was because after that I just spent a lot of time in bed. And when you're in bed, there's not much photography you can do. So yeah, this was the last images basically. Yeah.
So maybe we can transition a little bit and start talking about the drawings and how you started to draw, because that wasn't something that you did prior.
Not at all.
Right, so maybe walk us through that experience.
Yeah, so I was very much into the visual image of photography and video. When I went, I had to go into radiation, and this was in Paris because that's where I was based. And the radiation the treatment is 7 days and 7 nights of treatment, 24 hours a day. So you have the radiation turned on for 20 minutes and then 40 minutes off, 20 minutes on. And that happens 24 hours a day. You're in bed, stuck to a bed with the radiation rod in between one's legs, and it's being directly radiated directly on the cervix. So I knew that I couldn't move, and before I went into the radiation, I just thought, okay, what I've got to do is I've got to take a bag of goodies for myself, because I need to occupy my mind for 7 days and 7 nights. So I actually went to a big art store, and I bought lots of art stuff. And I bought clay, Fimo, which is the German colourful clay. I bought acrylics, I bought some canvases, I bought some books, I bought some Synergy oil pastels, and the blocks of paper, and so I had a bag full of stuff. Then when I was actually in the radiation process, and I also thought, I bought some movies and a notebook. I thought, I'm going to be really occupied, do lots of creativity and that sort of thing. But when I was actually in radiation, it was so horrific as an experience. I was like, I don't want to see a movie. I don't want to talk about anything. I don't want to read. I just didn't want to do anything. I was so horrified at the experience that the only thing that I could do was actually get these little Synergy pastels and this little book that I could lay on my back, and I just started to draw. And I was going through such complex emotions about being pinned to this bed, being in a lot of physical pain, and just being horrified by the experience. But I just started to actually draw about all the complex emotions I was going through, and I just kept drawing and drawing and drawing. So that was actually during the radiation. So
yeah, I love this, just the word lifeline, because these drawings really did become your lifeline.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about this first one?
So this one was my first. So I had the first night before I started radiation. Actually, for some bizarre reason, they actually put me in the radiation room with the radiation machine and made me sleep in the radiation room all by myself and wait until 5 o'clock in the morning for the operation. And so this is that night I actually slept, and that was the dream that I had. And so that was the first drawing that I drew. Well, that was the first dream that I drew. And then this is when I've got 103. So as I was drawing, I was counting the hours. So I was drawing. So this was at 103 hours.
So I was trying to find a way to talk about these drawings, and I realized I call them amalgamations, because they kind of remind me of the abstract expressionist insofar as you use drawing and language and gesture and emerge this into such an expressive creation.
But you said it's a creation at the time. I just felt I was surviving.
Correct. Yeah. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about
So
that.
I wasn't feeling that I was being creative at the time. I was literally, this was just a way to draw. It was just a way to stay alive, basically, and stay focused, to keep my mind focused on something other than the radiation. So it was, so it was a very devastating experience to go through, and very physically painful, And when you can't move, it's like, you know, your mind has to go somewhere. So I have a mantra that my spiritual teacher gave me, which I had, but I needed something also just on a physical level of actually, so that's why I just kept drawing and drawing while during the radiation, and then afterwards I would continue drawing because I had a sense that I was very, very depressed, and I needed to be reminded that I was still in this world. So I would draw to confirm that I was still here. So I would, like, every time I drew, it's like, okay, you're still here, Natalie. It's okay, you're still here. So, and that drawing became a confirmation of my life and living. So this is at the end. This is the last day of radiation. I am so done with being radiated. I feel like I'm cooked like a chicken from the inside, and I just can't deal with anything more. So,
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit, Natalie, about how you had to work with your mental state and turn everything into oneness?
So, the night before, so this famous night of being in the radiation room by myself with the radiation machine, I thought, this is the most horrific thing I could possibly go through as a human being right now. There's nothing worse that can happen to me. And I thought, I can't actually go through this experience as a physical person, because to be radiated is just, you know, beyond comprehension. So I went into a really deep space within my soul, and I just sat with my soul and I just said, I'm just going to go through this as a spiritual being, and I'm everything. Like my very deep part of myself is divine, and I'm going to bring everything else, I'm just going to bring everything into the sense of oneness. And so I sat there, and the thought of the radiation machine, me being one with the radiation machine, and the radiation machine being also like a divine being like me. There was a tree outside, there was a very small window, and so the tree is also the divine. This also, we are all one, and all of the walls is also, you know, we are all one, and the walls are also the divine, and anyone who walks through that door will be also a divine being. And it was this idea of really thinking of everything as oneness. You know, the idea that everyone is an atom, you know, every atoms make up everything. That sense of oneness, that an atom, whether it's in the wall, whether it's in me or you, we're all interconnected. So I went into that space, like really, really deep space, and said, this is how I'm going to go through the process of being radiated. I'm no longer a physical being, I'm now a spiritual being, and I'm one with the whole environment. And even my tumor is sacred, and I'm one with that too.
There's an extraordinary bit of writing that I wanted you to share. For me, when I read it for the first time, it left me breathless, and it really also reminded me of my love for Dostoevsky. But, you know, he writes a lot about how cruelty or deprivation and pain is an open door to, you know, a deeper vision of humanity and of God. So your passage had that same feeling for me, that terror, the devastation, and then a mystical transfiguration. So if you can read a little bit about a love poem to radiation.
So this is so being radiated was a very being radiated was a very, very complex experience. I went through it. After I came out of it, I went through a very deep depression, and I really regretted. I was in such physical, it was like the experience had just drained me of not only my physical wellness, but my joy, my laughter, like everything had just been completely drained out of me. And I really thought, this is just, if my life is going to be like this now, it's just not worth living. And so I really regretted actually going through the radiation, and I went through a really deep thing, like thinking I should have just like not done it and just, you know. And when I spoke to my oncologist about 2 years afterwards, after the radiation, I actually asked him, I said, did I have to go through that? Because it was so devastating for me. And even 2 years afterwards, I was still really not good shape. And he actually said, no, that was the only way that we could actually get rid of your tumour, because it was a very complex tumour. It was a tumour that had been there for a very long time. And it was only 3 radiation, because I wanted something natural to happen, turmeric or green tea. Something else. So I was like, couldn't I have done it with the green tea and the turmeric? And he said, no. You had to go through the radiation. So when I learnt that was sort of like, oh, okay. So I actually had to go through that to actually live today. And then but I still struggled being alive because it was just awful, being so depressed. And then after that, I then there's a drawing, actually, the cover of the book of me on the radiation table. That took 4 years. So I went through a lot of therapy, trauma therapy, and it was only after 4 years that I actually was able to draw myself on the radiation bed, being radiated. So we're talking about a very slow process to really connect with the experience. And I then kept on working on the relationship of radiation and of this radiation machine that tortured me. And how can I become friends with that? Because I can't spend my life being angry about an experience that I've had. So there was a really, really long process. 15 years later, I'm able to write this poem, which I wrote, and it's to the radiation machine. And what I did is I actually imagined, I went back to that night of where I was alone, having that mystical experience of all being one, and going back to that moment, but with the 15 years of the wisdom of recovery and healing, and actually taking all of that back to who I was then in 2009. And it was a way of actually how I befriended the devastating experience. I've got to put my glasses on because I'm a little blind. Okay, so love poem to radiation. To my persecutor, the silence. So this is me imagining myself. I'm sitting on the bed and I'm writing this to the radiation machine. To my persecutor, the silent, unwelcome guest, the radiation machine. You are my greatest terror and nightmare. Yet I have no choice but to befriend you, as your radiation burning will heal me. For the duration of the treatment, I will take you on as a spiritual being. I will see you as divine. It will not feel like you are torturing me. Sorry, it will feel like you are torturing me, raping me every hour, 24 hours a day. I shall not sleep, I shall not eat. You will burn me alive. I will feel the insides of my body cook. My mother will tell my brother that when she visits me, my room smells of burnt flesh. Then when the week is over, your radiation and burning will devastate me completely. I will lose my mind, my peace, my vitality, and my joy. It will take me years to recover. However, ultimately, you will save my life. It is because of you that I will have an extension of this life. For a year after your radiation, I will not be able to fall asleep peacefully in the dark of the night. My body will feel that you are there beside me. My body will wait for that dreaded click that begins the internal burning. You beginning to burn me. 7 years later, I will see a drawing of Sita sitting on a pyre, being burnt alive, and I will confidently say that I know that very experience. For the next 14 years, every time I return to Paris, a city I once so loved, will be in dread and fear, because the city will be the reminder of my place of torture with you. Yet in this room, the night before radiation begins, it is ever so quiet, just you and I, a vigil for us both, before the reckoning. I will need to see you as the divine. I will need to see this all playing out as the divine. Otherwise, I simply won't get through this. I will want to run, and I will be pinned down. There will be no escape. This is it. You will be my torturer, my grace, my saviour. We will be one. We are divine.
So, as we speak about the divine, this will be a nice moment to speak about our spiritual teacher.
Some joy, yes.
Some joy, yes. Sri Shakti Amma. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the role your spiritual teacher had in guiding you in ways that you understood many years later.
Yeah, so I was in Paris recovering, and my teacher actually said, come to India and recover, which was actually, in retrospect, a very good idea, because the only thing I wanted to do was to throw myself under a bus. And so I really do believe that my teacher saved my life from that, because I really did not want to continue living, because I was I really felt so devastated after the experience. The role of my teacher was really the experience. Oh, isn't this a cute picture?
Yeah, so good.
This is my goat. This was just before COVID. I was given this motherless goat, and Om came and ran around with me while I was watering trees, just like a little puppy dog, and would wait for me at the door at the gate. She's coming, Mummy's coming. So Shakti Amma for me was really about the experience of having, even when I wanted to give up, it was like Amma never gave up on me, and it was just this Shakti Amma just kept on turning up again and again and again and again, and it was so patient with me, because I was so not wanting to be alive, and I just so didn't want to return to life, and it was just this continuous experience of unconditional love and patience, and just always giving me just a little bit just to sort of come into life. And I will talk about Green Shakti afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But and also about really connecting to the soul. So although I was having a lot of physical and emotional suffering, there was always this steadfastness that my soul had not been affected by the experience, that the soul never can change, and that was something that really came through. So it was about really understanding that on a very, very profound level.
I wanted to just go ahead to talk a little bit about the mantra. Do we have it in here? Yeah. So this mantra became a thread for you throughout your entire healing.
Absolutely.
Through the radiation, it was really chanting and prayer that sustained you through your most difficult periods. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about this mantra, and maybe to introduce it, you can read one more poem about how you chanted the divine name, because it's so powerful.
Do you want to introduce the mantra though? Is that an idea?
Yeah, so, our teacher often talks about, mantra versus words. These are both words and mantra, they're sounds, but what really distinguishes mantra is that it holds a vibration, and it holds a very positive vibration. These mantras were downloaded thousands of years ago by our rishis, who were really, speaking of oneness, they were in oneness. They were with nature, with the divine, and they heard the sounds of the universe, and these sounds were downloaded as they were in that oneness. And so these mantras are incredibly sacred and have profound power of healing.
So this mantra is Om Namo Narayani. Narayani is the Mother Earth, or the divine feminine Mother Nature. People could also understand her as Gaia. but it's the divine feminine of. Okay, so this is from one of my drawings. I chanted your divine name at every moment since the news of my diagnosis. You showed up when the doctor said the tumour reduced by half between the second and third biopsy. You showed up as my nurse called Lakshmi Narayani, an Indian nurse in my radiation room in Paris. She said she had never, in 20 years of living in France, met someone who knew her name. You kept on showing up. Even when I wanted to give up, you showed up. You never, ever gave up on me.
So I think that's a wonderful segue to one of my favorite stories about your nurse during that time, your nurse Narayani, which is an extraordinary synchronicity. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was at Institut Marie Curie, which is just a 5-minute walk from the Luxembourg Gardens, so we're on the left bank in Paris, in my radiation room. And before I went into radiation, I'd asked all my friends, anybody who had a spiritual connection to something, I said, pray for me, and also don't send me gifts, but send me cards or send me drawings. And so all the cards that I'd received, I put them up on the wall because I thought I'm going to be here for a week. So I had like an art gallery of love. And with these big A3 pieces of paper, I wrote my mantra, this mantra here, Om Namo Narayani, each letter on a piece of paper. And I thought this is the mantra that's just going to get me through this next, through the 7 days of radiation. And so I was chanting and I was drawing and I was chanting and chanting. About the first 24 hours, I was so done. I was done because I couldn't sleep and can't eat, and I completely broke down. And I just started to cry, and I just was like, this is insane. I don't know why I have to go through this, but and I started to talk to Narayani, like as in Mother Earth, and saying, why do I have to go through this? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I just said, look, I'm so, I just had that sense that I just wanted to give up. And I said, I'm so out of my mind because I'm in pain and I can't sleep and I can't even chant your name anymore. And I just said, F this. And I just stopped chanting and I just cried and cried and cried. And then the nurses came in and they realized that I wasn't on morphine. So they were like, oh, madame, I'm really morphine. So I'm like, so they come back, they bring the morphine in, they put me on morphine, and then so I'm in this haze of sort of cotton wool, and this young nurse comes in. She's a very, very small South Indian nurse, and she's like, bonjour Nathalie, yesterday when you were in the operating room, I saw that you had written my name up on the wall. So I knew that I had to come and take care of you. Okay, but I'm like on morphine by now. And I'm thinking, she's saying that she's called Narayani, right? Like she's pointing to the words. And anyways, she has to go out because the radiation is on again. And so I call a friend and I'm like, my nurse is called Narayani. And she says, are you on morphine? I was like, yes. She's like, well, maybe you're just really high. And I was like, yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I thought she said Narayani. Like, she was playing for the words. She's like, no, Natalie, you just, like, when you're on morphine, this is what happens. So Narayani comes in on the next time, she's checking the machine and checking everything. And I'm like, can I take a photograph of your badge? So I photograph the badge and I look at the back of my camera, it's like, her name is Narayani. So I send it off to my friends, like, look, her name is Narayani. And the amazing thing about her is that, I said to her, I've never ever met a nurse. No, I've never met. I said, I've been worshipping the Divine Mother for 4 or 5 years by this time. And I said, I've never met a human being called Narayani. Like, I know the goddess Narayani, but, who's worshipped in India, we worship Mother Earth, but a human being. And she's like, well, I have lived in Paris for 20 years, and she doesn't have it anymore, for 20 years, and she says, and I've never met anybody who knows my name.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, okay. So for the next for the rest of the time, she bathed me every day, and her speciality was, she'd actually done a master's in anthropological nursing, so she knew how to bathe an Orthodox Jewish woman or an Orthodox Muslim woman, and so she really knew the whole bathing rituals. So when she was there, she was so present, and it really felt like, she just came in with such kindness, and it was just what I needed.
So I just want to move to reconnection and what nature did for you, Nathalie. This I love because this drawing says, tonight I asked for the support of every leaf, every tree, every blade of grass, every insect. If you can talk a little bit about Mother Earth and what happened when you started caring for the trees and how that led to your healing and reconnection.
So as you know, that Narayani is Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and since I was a child, I always had a very powerful connection to nature. And so being in India with my teacher after about a year suggested that I go and take care of the trees. Nathalie can go and take care of the trees, and I'm like, okay, like a good student, yes, I'll do that, And so I really thought I was going to take care of the trees. And so I was going out and I was planting trees and nurturing trees and watering the trees. And it wasn't about me doing anything at all. What it was about me hanging out in nature. And what happened is that every day I would go out and be with the trees, and I would see a little leaf unfurl, and I would see a flower come, I would see a bird come and sit in the tree that I planted. All of this whole process of nature just telling me to move forward, move forward, move forward, move forward. Because that is the only direction that nature goes through, is moving forward. And I really felt that I was not moving forward because I was sort of so deep in depression and with post-traumatic stress. So this, and that's what, so I just kept on connecting to nature, and it was really that connection that really brought me back into life.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about Green Shakti now. Yeah.
So Green Shakti is, means the feminine energy. It's the energy that really brings the life force to the world. You all have Shakti in you. And so this is a project where in South India where we plant trees, and every tree is planted with a prayer. We also grow trees and we donate trees to farmers and educate children so that they can really have a connection to nature, with the idea that when they're older that they will really be able to defend nature because they'll have a connection and a love for nature. And so it's really about getting kids with their hands dirty. They can plant the trees, they make the compost, they water the trees, and that's one of the greatest projects we've done. This is the Kailasha Hills, these sacred hills just behind the temple where I live, and as you can see, it was completely denuded, and we planted 100,000 trees every year, and now it is all beautiful and green like that. And we're at 2 million trees, and the climate has really changed. Like, you can be in Vellore and it's like just hot and just dusty, and then you come in to this area and you can really sense that you're in a different climate. It's quite magical. And this is we also have a project that's very focused on getting local women into jobs where they're safe and they can also support their children and have a safe place to come. This is the Zero Waste Management site. We have about 180 women, 160 women, and they collect all the rubbish, and they collect about 2 tons of rubbish on the campus and on the streets, and everything is hand-picked, hand sorted, cleaned, and we make the compost there. And they're just like delightful. We just love them.
So, as we wrap up, many readers, will not necessarily have faced cancer, but they, like you said, have faced other forms of loss, of devastation and trauma and uncertainty. What is your hope for them, right? What are they going to carry from your story and from your book? Because I know that this is very mission-driven for you.
I think it's okay to fall apart, and it's okay, and we do come back together. I think the extraordinary thing about humans is that we are incredibly resilient as people, and it's just to be patient with the process of healing. I think that's, and I think there's also what's important is to know that your soul, whatever disasters we go through, that the soul is always unchanged, and it's so important to really hold on to one's spiritual life and to be really connected with that with every breath, not just once a day or once a week, but with every breath, to know that we are spiritual beings, and that we are so interconnected with each other through this breath and through this spirit. And it's to give people hope. I really honestly didn't plan to make a book. I just drew because it kept me, helped keep me alive. But now that it's there, I really hope it gives others hope.
How do you now define being alive?
Joy.
So why don't we close with this beautiful, beautiful poem, To Life, and then we'll open it up for questions.
And just to say that I've got this poem that I'm about to read, I've actually made some really small drawings of that are available there if anyone wants to live with one. Okay, dear life. So this is my love poem to life. I'm really good on some love poems, right? Radiation machine. Gotta love everything. Gotta love it all. Okay, dear life, you never gave up on me. When it was all too painful and I wanted to give up, you gently held me, waiting ever so patiently, quietly guiding. Remember those circles I have drawn? At first, I drew them as my cells burnt and died, willing them to return to health. Today, the larger circle I draw is me, and you have become my sacred center. You are my breath, you are my laughter, you are the unfurling flower, you are the child's smile, you are the beam of afternoon light pouring into my room, you are every tree, you are the cup of tea, you are every drawing, you are the vitality in every being. Beloved life, you are my love, my center. I feel very emotional saying this. I honor you in all I do on this earth. Oh, I'm sorry, Oof, sorry. I'm not sorry, but I'm just very emotional. This means a lot to me. I really didn't think I'd get through this. That I'd actually get to the other side of being able to live like I am now, so I'm very, very grateful. You are my love, my center. Beloved life, you are my love, my center. I honor you in all I do on this earth, with these hands and this heart. In the meal I cook, in the tree I plant, in the hand I hold, in the drawing I create, in the joy I share, sacred life, beloved life, I am alive.
I'd love to open it up for some questions. Thank you, Elena.
So I was just thinking that the audience might want to know what your life is like now with Street Shop Memoir.
What is my life like now?
With her.
Pretty busy. So in terms of spiritually or in terms of my service?
Whatever you'd like to share.
Okay. So now I still live in India. I honestly, I thought I would spend 3 months in India and then I'd go back to my life in Paris. That didn't happen. Because it literally took me 5 years to recover, to sort of come back into my body, get through the trauma, and then it took me about another 2 years to really come back to who I am now today. So it was a 7-year process of healing. Since then, I've been really, like the last 7 years, I've really been, the last 14 years, I've really been dedicating my life to Green Shakti, so the environmental program. So that I honestly, it like fills every thought in my mind in terms of how we can make things better, and just to make it a project where people really feel safe and they're loved, and that it's a community that is really coherent, and that everybody is really happy in terms of what they're doing. They really do love being connected with nature. So I spend most of my time doing that, and I do a lot of prayer. I do a lot of meditation every day. We have a teacher who conducts pujas, which are like rituals, 2 to 3 hours a day, 3 hours a day. So there's a lot of prayer. So I pray for the world. I pray for anyone who needs prayer, and that's And then there's in terms of a lot of people coming in to visit India. You're all welcome, by the way. You're all welcome. No, really, it's a wonderful place. It's got such a high energy as a location, because there's these rituals that are done from 5 o'clock in the morning to 9 p.m. at night, and these rituals have these mantras that Sonia was describing, and it's all in honor of Mother Earth, and just by having all these rituals and this chanting all day means that you're sitting in a space which has incredibly high vibration. So, yeah. So I really feel like it's home. It was very, very difficult to leave Paris and to pack up my apartments and that sort of stuff, but in the end, I really I'm so happy that I am where I am.
Other questions? Please.
Hi, Nathalie. Thank you for your story.
Oh, thank you, Julius.
You talked about going to the art store before the experience
Yes.
the radiation.
Yes.
And you were shopping, and you were picking up things to
Yeah.
take with you. And then when you were on your back, you had some objects to capture what you were seeing.
What I was experiencing, yeah.
Can you talk about those tools?
Yeah, but
Was it a shape, size of the book, the type of pencils, or whatever you were doing to capture?
These are just the oil pastels, just this size. They're actually made for Picasso, because he wanted to make Scenery is an art store in France, and Picasso wanted to have something that was more physical in terms of as an oil. So in terms of not using a paintbrush, these were actually created. And then I just use something like this, which is just sometimes I use a bamboo stick. It's just to scratch. So this is actually a pottery. It's a pottery tool, but I use that to scratch, and that's it. And then the actual pads, which
take a look on the screen. You could see a little bit of the pad.
and the pad is about that big. So I really went into that idea of drawing with the idea of Frida Kahlo, the images of when she was in hospital drawing. That really resonated with me. I just thought I was really connecting with that, her experience, and actually that's having that process to create.
And did you need a teacher to teach you how to use those tools?
Oh, honey,
or did you just figure it out?
No. This was just all coming out from within. I really do feel like my soul is in every drawing. So it's it just really is an expression that comes from deep within me. I just want to say one thing, because I've seen Derek has arrived. I want to say thank you to Susan and to Derek Bullen, because back when I was a really miserable person after my radiation, I showed them my drawings, and they said, if you want to do something with these, we will support you. And people say things all the time, right? But these guys, they actually stuck to their words, and they helped scan all the first images, and they supported the publication of this book. So I want to thank, because otherwise we would not be here today, and this book would not be here today without your commitment. So thank you so much.
My question's actually very related, but maybe in a way that's not immediately obvious. So I agree with you and also meditate a lot on the soul and on unity consciousness. I also work a lot with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in this interesting time right now where we have to reconcile with disembodied intelligence. And you went through this experience where you really struggled with embodiment. I think your drawings actually sort of say it all, but I would love to hear you speak to the experience of joyful embodiment, because that's such a deeply human theme right now, and it's what distinguishes us from universal consciousness, God bless it, and may it be all-inclusive. However, we are human.
Okay, so I don't really understand your question. Just want
Embodiment.
Yeah.
What's it like to be in
Oh.
your body?
Oh, well, it's pretty. Oh, okay. So to be here, like I had a very, very long journey, right? So
Yeah.
I was like completely not in my body because I'd been so I'd gone through so much trauma. So there was this years of work of returning my body, my body to my spirit, myself into integrating, and to then to come out the other side. Well, you saw how I was emotional with this my poem to life. I mean, it's a profound experience, and it's really the experience to understand just how precious this life is. I think, yeah, and I think it's only through having gone through what I went through, I can really see the it's like you've got to see the ugliness to really be able to appreciate the absolute beauty and the exquisiteness of even just a raindrop or a child's smile or anything. It's about the embodiment of joy. I would say it's just about being completely in one's moment, in one's body, and completely in the moment, and completely with that moment.
Maybe one more? Camille?
Nathalie, could you speak a little about the way that you approach science, spirituality, and art? And
Science? I was a terrible science student.
the way you embrace the medical community and what they were able to do.
Oh, I don't know if I embraced them. I had to surrender to it. I don't think I embraced the scientific community, no. I really I really went in with my heels sort of dug in going, do I have to go through this? I really, really did. I prayed so much that my tumor would disappear and I would be a miracle and I wouldn't have to go through radiation. So, it was more a process of surrender, I would say, and acceptance of like that. It's like I had to go through the fire, although that was the last thing I wanted to do. David.
Well, thank you for that, because for me, very moving coming from treatment field. It would be great if more people in the cancer treatment field could hear your story.
Yeah.
Not sure how that could be. I do have a question.
Yes.
Supposing a lady comes to you who is being diagnosed as you were diagnosed and asks for your advice, what would you say?
I would say I really believe that listen to the doctors, because really find someone you can trust and listen to them, because I think it's a very overwhelming experience because you don't know there's so many possibilities, but I was really, really fortunate to have a very good oncologist and someone who I really trusted. So that's the first thing. And I really do believe that to have a spiritual life, to go through, and I don't think it's just about going through a cancer treatment or anything, but I think going through if you go through a car accident or anything, I think it's really important to have a spiritual life, and that can be whatever it is. Like you can worship anything, the sun, the moon, the Jesus, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but you've got to have some form of trust and faith in something that is immovable. because there's moving parts all along when you're unwell, but there's got to be like this constant centre, and that really does come. That for me was really my spiritual life. That was really important.
Natalie, will you share what the doctor from the Mayo Clinic shared with you?
She saw the book and she said, you know, every day I tell my patients, well, we're here for you, you know, we're here for you, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. But she says, I have no idea what they're going through. And she said that reading your book was the first time I actually understood what my patients go through.
Thank you, Natalie, so much.
Thank you, everyone.